Hello and welcome to Military Mantra. In this interview, we have today Colonel Razzaque Adil sir, who's from the Indian Army. He was part of the Gorkha Regiment and also the National Security Guards, NSG Commandos. So in this interview, we'll try to understand his journey of joining the Indian Army, life in the Indian Army, and various life lessons that he has learned from his service. So thanks a lot, sir, for coming on this interview and welcome.
Thank you so much, Akash. I know it has been some time since we have been planning this, and my mistake. I couldn't come earlier, but thank you so much for this opportunity.
No problem, sir. So my first question to you would be, how was your life before you joined the Indian Army, and what was your motivation back then to join the Fauj?
Okay, so I am from Northeast India. I grew up in. I am born and brought up in Assam,
Okay.
and we grew up in a certain period of history in the Northeast, which was quite there were a lot of troubles and stripes, insurgencies, right? So in the 1980s, when I was a small kid, we saw something known as the language agitation in Assam, which was a massive movement by the normal, all the people.
Okay.
And then, schools and all closed for a year. So thereafter, and we came to the 90s. Okay, this thing got solved. Then we come to the 90s, which was the rise of the ULFA, that is the United
Hmm.
Liberation Front of Assam. It led a big insurgent movement that time. So why I'm bringing this is like we saw, these things related to strife and insurgency from that side also. So when I have been joined the army, I saw it as a from the army's perspective, but I have seen it from the other side also. And so because of all these disturbances and all the schools getting closed, my parents decided that I should go to a boarding school. So then I went to the Assam Rifles Public School in
Okay.
Shillong. So though the name might sound like it's a military school, it is not. It is just that the Assam Rifles had sponsored the school when it was starting. It was the only public school. Like when you saw a public school, it was supposed to be member of the Indian Public School Certificate
Hmm.
Committee, right? So it was the only public school in Northeast those days for boys. And I had only a scholarship, so I went there. And so I was there for 7 years in the boarding, and thereafter I went to the National Defense Academy and all from there on.
Hmm.
And be going to that school, I think, is one of the best things that happened to me in terms of my military career because it definitely set me up. Because you got into the habit of being on your own, taking initiative, looking after yourself, and of course that a tremendous amount of friendship and team spirit that you develop while staying with your own classmates in the school. So that was generally the childhood that I had. And when you say motivation, I would say, there are two set of motivation. Now, in retrospect, even I understand. Firstly, when I told you, all this insurgency and the counter-insurgency operations by the army which happened in Assam, I saw it.
Hmm.
It really rose a lot of curiosity in my mind about the army, right? You see those smart-looking, jawans going on a patrol or in their
Hmm.
vehicles with their weapons. So now I come from a background which has got nothing to do with the army. My grandfather was a doctor in the Indian Army during the World War II, but that was like because all doctors, I think, the British took them in that time.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I have no army background. So there was a curiosity, in know what is there on the other side. So when we used to see these military camps, we don't know what is going inside there. As a kid, you are so curious, what must be going inside that camp.
Hmm.
So that was one thing I think which pushed me. Secondly, in my school, we had many students, many of my classmates who were children of Jawans, JCOs, and officers of the Indian Army, and especially of the Assam Rifles.
Hmm.
So got a very close interaction, and some of their parents also. I had grew up admiring them, and there's some administrative officers who were part of our school, like the bursar. They were military officers. So you
Hmm.
see them, and you admire them, and that is one of the inspiration I definitely.
Got it, sir. So if you could also speak about your time when you went for an SSB, how was that experience? And what tips you would like to give to the aspirants who are going to SSB now?
Okay. So, like I shared with you earlier, so my SSB was long time back, right? So I went for my SSB in 1997. I think
Okay.
many of the people watching this may not have been born that time. So, okay. So, so that I'll tell you about my experience, and then I'll also tell you about my uh, experience of the SSB through others. So I had appeared for the National Defense Academy exam, and when I got through in the written part and they called me for the SSB. So I had absolutely no idea what happens in SSB. And those times
mm,
there were no coaching institutes and all in our part of the country, definitely. So I spoke to one or two people from the army and all, like people from my school and all, like I got out, and they also could not tell me exactly how to prepare for an NDSSB.
mm,
So one of them suggested that why don't you go look for a book. I looked for a book, and luckily somewhere I got this book on a SSB. So I went through the book. The book actually it helped because it told me at least what is the structure, what to expect. Like when you reach there, these are the tests and all those things. Right. So that way it helped me. And then I obviously did not go for any coaching that time, but I did not feel also later that I would have required it. But yeah, nothing against coaching, but yeah. So I went, and so my SSB was great. Like I actually had gone for the AFSB, that was
okay.
the Air Force, because like most, to be very, to be honest, I think most people when they opt for NDA, topmost choice is generally Air Force, right?
Mm,
But in every batch, my batch was a 300 plus batch, which is one of the largest batch in India. You don't have even 100 people from for the Air Force because all NDA cadets are supposed to be pilots if they
mm.
qualify. So 70 to 80. So I did not get Air Force, though my merit was quite high because I didn't do well in the pilot aptitude
PABT.
test,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, PABT. I didn't do well in that. Anyway, so my SSB was in Banaras, and I had a wonderful time in that SSB. People came from all over India. We got together, and I think that is what helped me also because I had a very good rapport with everyone. Right? So maybe because I was from a boarding school and all, it helped. So it was a very good friendship, and like we were obviously there to get selected. That was there, but every day was like a good fun, right? Staying in those accommodations, having food in the mess, and in the afternoon days to allow us to go and visit places in Manawar. So I had a wonderful time. So when it went, I just did day to day, like whatever was there on that day.
Mm,
I used to just think, okay, how will I answer and all. And I just went through it. And the final day when they had the conference, I somehow felt, like in my heart, I knew that probably I am selected. But of course, you never know till they actually let you know.
mm.
So that was my experience. Now coming to, I guess most of the people who watch this, they want, I guess, to give some lessons about how to go about preparing SSB.
Yeah.
Do you have subsequent question also, or you want me to cover everything of that in this?
No, you can cover it. No problem.
Okay, so I'll cover some, and if you feel that I have left out anything, then you can
Sure.
ask me a supplementary question. Okay, so uh, now my latest knowledge of the SSB is like this. Of course, there are many people who approach you, right? People from your family, friends, children of friends, like because they think that this person can guide this. So to guide them, you have to again relearn. That is one. And secondly, when I was the commanding officer, and we all know that there is a scheme called the ACC entry,
Yes.
in which people who are already soldiers in the army, they get an opportunity to write an exam and then go for SSB, and then if they qualify, they join the ACC wing, wherein they train for 3 years, and thereafter they go to the Indian Military Academy, and so they get a chance as serving as commissioned officers.
Mm,
So every CO aspires that Jawans from his own unit should be able to qualify and get selected for this. In my case, I had made this in one of my key result areas, that is one of my KRS, and I aggressively pursued this. Being from the Gorkhas, we had one slight handicap, that I think the quota of which is available for people, for being commissioned into the Indian Army as officers for Nepalese citizen is also there, but obviously it would be a lesser percentage than what is for
mm,
the Indian population. So we had limited seats to fight for, and I really tried. I am happy to say that during my time, one of them got selected, the second one got selected as soon as I moved out. But every batch we had a lot of people, they used to pass the written exam, but they're getting stuck in the SSB. So like 15, 10 people were getting selected in the written, but SSB में फिर कोई नहीं होगा.
mm.
So I had to like then study how best to make these ones, how to help them in their preparation. So therefore, I started getting in touch with people I knew I had served with who are doing GTOs or interviewing officers in the SSB. Obviously, some things they are not allowed to share, but the generic information about how one should prepare, they did share, right? And also, these people, when they used to come back, I used to always interview them as a commanding officer and ask them about like their experience and like what they felt, you know, held them back from being selected, and also from the successful candidates. I ask them like, what is that you feel you got selected.
Mm.
So all these things were there. Now, from all this, I would summarize the entire thing to this. See, the SSB is a process which is looking at your suitability for a life in the armed forces and as a leader of men in war conditions. Now, every person can do this in this world, but obviously some people can do it better
Mm.
than the others. And the SSB is trying to look at those people and select them, right? Now, so therefore, the thing is, it is a question of it's a personality test, and nobody can develop or make a personality overnight,
Mm.
right? So therefore, if one aspires for a life in the armed forces and to qualify in the SSB, I would suggest that everybody should take a long-term goal of developing and adapting one's personality towards achieving, or towards developing such a personality. You cannot do it overnight. You cannot do it in 1 month. I think you cannot even do it in 1 year. You cannot go to a coaching center, learn it. Of course, they will help you by
Mm.
telling you how to tackle the test. They will help you to probably put your best uh, you know uh, best side for foot forward, but you cannot overnight develop the qualities which will qualify you in SSB.
Got
So
it.
I would all definitely suggest that take a long term view. If you are in any say you are today in class 12 and you are aspiring for NDA and you have not really thought about the SSB, go ahead and give it, but you may not be able to develop all those qualities in this just that 1 month, 2 month. Continue with your development. Maybe then after 3 years when you appear for the CDS, you would have definitely inculcated that much of qualities into your personality and you'll get selected. So to again summarize, I would say take a long term view. It is a
Mm.
personality test. Personalities take time to develop
That's
and
great.
develop.
Got it. Uh, Sir, if you could also speak about your journey into the academy in the National Defense Academy.
Yeah, okay. So it was an interesting thing, like those years, the postal system and everything was quite different from what it is today. So in the SSB, they tell you, right, that you are selected, and then you go
Mm.
for a medicals, and I cleared my medicals, and waiting for the joining letter. Nothing came, and I knew that the course starts on 1st of July. Nothing came till 10th of July, and I was like wondering what happened. Like I got selected. Even my parents started asking me, "Hey, you said that you have got selected. What happened?" Nothing came. So then, luckily, somebody I knew somebody in army headquarters. They called them and they said, "Yeah, that person, we have sent him that letter. Has he not got it?" That's it. Then they said, "Okay, you can come and uh, collect a secondary copy from the army headquarters." So even before having joining ND, I landed up in army headquarters. Like somebody sponsored my flight, one some
Mm.
relatives, and I went to Delhi. I collected my joining letter, and then from there, I straight away had to go to NDA. Like I couldn't come back home.
Okay.
So I didn't have all those items and all that generally one prepares to go for staying in the NDA. But yeah, I mean, like I bought things there. There's some friends in Pune who were doing graduation in Ferguson College. They really helped out.
Okay.
Anyway, so I joined. So NDA was like initially to start off, it was a shock.
Mm.
It was genuinely a shock. And the shock did not come from the physical aspects, at least for me, because I was already staying in a boarding school, generally physically fit. But there's a big cultural change. My school also, we had this thing about juniors, seniors, and seniors always had a privileged life. But the amount of like difference which is there between one term to the other, that
Mm.
was like a very distinct thing to me. Like, I mean, it was something I had to get used to. Secondly, was the language used. Okay, the army that I got commissioned into and grew up, it used to using what do you say, abusive language, or those I don't know. Like this is common. Like in every sentence that a commanding officer will use, there will be two, three what you can call galis in that, right? So probably the NDA wanted you to get used to that so that you don't, you're not
Mm.
sensitive to it all the time. So people used to use those, words in every sentence, and I was shocked because coming from Northeast, I didn't even know the meaning of some of those words
Mm.
that they were swear words or something. So that was one shock. But yeah, then like every like it happens in every particular organization or anywhere you join, whether it's a school or a college or a job, things grow on you. You adjust, you make friends, that you meet other fellow strugglers who are also struggling, then
Mm,
you bond, and then you take on. So yeah, and I mean, like, NDA is like very intense, it like looks like 3 years, but if you
mm,
divide it into those 6 terms of
mm.
just 5 months each. So it is very intense. Everything that happens, so much of training is packed into it. Into it. So yeah, very fond memories. But while now, but while it lasted, I would say it was very tough.
Yeah, got it, sir. Sir, I also read Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan was your senior in the academy, and later you also worked with him even in NSG. So, if you could speak about that experience that you had with Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan.
Yes. So Sandy sir was fifth termer when I joined. Right. So we had a difference of 2 years. So I was a first termer, he was a fifth termer, and I. So in the academy, people you notice and remember more are those aggressive ones, or somebody who would have, who would have caught you and give you some punishment or been your friend. So he was always about quiet demeanor. Even then, he used to be, some people are quietly, silently strong. He was actually one of those. He was very talented. He was very good at athletics, and we are from the same squadron. That is
Mm,
Oscar squadron of NDA. So within a squadron, everybody knows each other very well, right? Even if they're seniors. So I used to notice him that this guy is like good in many things. He used to have a lot of medals in athletics and all, but not be very very speaking out that much. So I remember him like that only. And one particular incident I remember that we are having some sort of a sit down with one of our instructors for the entire squadron, and sir had a contrary view to what was being spoken of. And you see, listen, in India, it's all about survival. Nobody,
mm,
even if there is something in your mind, you don't raise your hand to say anything.
mm,
But he raised his hand and he spoke out, and the instructor had to agree that he had a point. So that stayed with me. Like at that time I thought this guy must be crazy or something. Why is he taking so much of this? But I realized later on when I connected with my experience with him, he was one of those, like who'll take a stand, very sincere, and so he'll take a stand. He'll always take a stand. Now, connecting it to my experience with him and NSG, same thing. So I joined NSG before him. I mean,
mm,
he came on deputation, right? So, and NSG में the system was that anybody who comes into the organization before, he is not considered senior, of course, but like he, I, I'll still call him a sir, but I know I'll expect him to give me the due that I have been in NSG before him. So when he was undergoing the probation and the training center, and we are already in SSE, we heard about him that somebody has joined. That this guy is slightly different. When somebody mentioned his name, I said, "Yeah, I know him. He's from Oscar Squad, and I've seen him." So what had happened there was, I think one of the instructors who were officer was the probation officer. He was himself physically quite not fit. I mean, I think he didn't take care or whatever. And Sandy sir pointed it out, not by name, somewhere. That instructors who are teaching us need to be as fit as, or if not more. That was not taken kindly, and I think he was given a tough time. So it's that's the thing about him. He's a guy who takes a stand.
mm,
And then he joined 51 SSG, you know, and so in 51, there are three squadrons other than the headquarters squadron. We were both part of third squadron. I was the
mm,
sniper officer for number three squadron then. Well, I was the junior most. So junior most, I other like squadron commander, the team commanders, they're
mm,
senior. So though I had got tenure, I continued to be the sniper officer. And plus, I liked it also because sniper officer, as a sniper officer, I got much more exposure. Because I used to get an opportunity to, like, I trained with the Alpha team, Russian Alpha team, and I mean with many other teams. Anyway, so when I was in third squadron and I was moving out of the NSG, that is the time I handed over the sniper team to him. And subsequently, of course, because he was senior, though he made it into a team commander and a squadron commander. At the time when he was martyred, he was the squadron commander of number three squadron.
mm,
So yeah, so and we went together to quite a few deployments. There was one in northeast again in Assam, the national games. There was a big
okay.
threat, and we were called there. So I have served with him. I have the highest respect for him. And we had also developed a friendship. He used to stay in a house just next to me, and sometimes when we used to make something special at home, we used to call him over. So, and we were very good. We became good friends also. Along with there was another third officer called Sajeev sir. And with, just to finish, like I'll say one thing about him. Like people who get martyred, all of us always speak good things only about them, right? Or
Hmm.
why would you bring out anything negative? But in his case, he genuinely deserves all the good words that people say about him, because he genuinely was a good person. It's not that that because he got martyred I am praising him. No, he was genuinely, even if he was not martyred, which I really hope, wish it was not like that, I would have still said that he's a very great person, a great senior, like all the right qualities for a military leader. When people, and I actually in my I'm telling the truth that I feel that we carry people close to us even if they're in their, after they die in
Hmm.
us. So there are certain times like when I have used him as a guidance, like okay, how would he have dealt this? Some qualities that is there. And my favorite poem is Invictus. So I, in my office as a commanding officer also, there used to be, I have it in my home now. So
Hmm.
there used to be a lithograph with his picture and that poem. And wherever I have been since all these years, I always carry that with. There is one copy with me and another copy which I gifted to uncle and auntie, which is kept in his home in Bangalore, where they have a room with all his memorabilia.
Yeah, that's very nice. I have actually seen it when I visited their house. Okay.
Okay.
I live in Bangalore actually, in Yalanka itself.
Acha, you stay in Lanka?
Yeah, very close to their house. It's 15 minutes from my house. So I visit them every year on
Okay.
Major Sandeep Unikrishnan's birth anniversary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I plan to do this the coming year. I let's see.
Okay. Sir, if you could also speak about your journey to IMA and what was your motivation back then to join the Gorkha Regiment?
Okay, so when I was in India, I had actually not much idea about which arm to join or anything. Like I tell, I had actually aspired to be the Air Force, and when I
Hmm.
came to the army, I didn't have much idea. But as you grow in NDA, by the end of NDA, I had one thing firmly in my mind that I understood that I should go for infantry. And the
Hmm.
reason is this, like I really knew that I'll be good in being with the soldiers, because many of the friends actually from my school, like I mentioned, they were sons of soldiers. I got along very well with them, and I knew, like I will be doing well there. And also because being in the infantry obviously gave you the maximum opportunity for being in insurgency or all these active operations, which we all knew. So by that time, I had formed up that I will join the infantry. Now, about Gorkhas, it was more like, when I came to IMA and I told some of the instructors, they used to ask us, and I used to say, yeah, I'll opt for infantry. They used to ask, which regiment are you planning
Hmm.
to opt for? So then I realized I had not thought about that. So I started thinking. So, of course, Gorkhas, there are two connect. One, many of these students, again, from my school, their fathers were serving in Assam Rifles, but they were Gorkhas from Nepal,
Okay.
right? So that was one connect. I already knew the language that was there. And and then there were all these instructors including drill ustads and all from various Gorkhas who used to be there in IMA. Some of them I used to go up and talk to and try to get an idea how it would be to be in a Gorkha regiment. So finally, my mind was made up. So my choice of arms also I kept it as three Gorkhas as the first choice, 11 Gorkhas as the second choice, and the third I gave another Indian regiment because I thought in case Gorkhas I don't get Gorkhas, because Gorkhas were always very heavily subscribed. Right? Even today, I
Hmm.
think it's one of the most toughest regiment to get, toughest in terms of because so many people are giving
Uh,
it as. So that was how I landed up in the Gorkhas. And I can tell you, I have sometimes revisited my decision to join the army or not, whether I did a good thing, did I do a good thing by opting for infantry. But one decision which I have never had to revisit was about this decision to join the Gorkhas. No, they are the best in this world, the most fun soldiers. I know others also have the same feeling about their regiments, but I can absolutely say, they're the best in this world. So yeah, that was great. And IMA journey was like short for us because like what was happening when we were in IMA, the this Kargil had just finished, right?
Yeah.
And Op Parakram happened after some time, but there was always this thing probably in the minds of the military hierarchy that some action might happen. So they needed more officers. So
Mm.
they decided to truncate the training in IMA. So the
Okay.
direct entries who came and from 1.5 year, their training was cut down to 1 year.
Mm.
For ex-NDS, whose training is usually 1 year, it was cut down to around 7 months. So I was there
Okay.
in IMA in 7 months. But the thing is, though it became 7 months, they did not cut any training activity. Okay,
Mm.
so it was like really hectic for our batches, and so it went like a blur. Uh, by an IMA, I had definitely started becoming more conscious about the career path. I had started understanding that how one does better. So I tried my best to improve from my merit in NDA to my merit in IMA, and I think I climbed quite a lot of. Of course I didn't reach the top blocks, but within my own merit, I think where I was when I left NDA and when I came to when I left IMA, I had climbed quite a lot in my merit ranking, I would say.
Got it.
So yeah.
So, as a young officer, when you joined your unit, which was infantry, so how was your first experience in combat? How was your reaction when you actually went into the battlefield?
So uh, I joined the unit when it was in a place called Pithoragarh in Uttarakhand, and it was a peace station, but very actively under training and all. It used to be part of a particular formation of the Indian Army, which is mobilized quite often. So we used to be a lot of training and all, and we learned. And within few months, we learned that a unit is going to JNK, and the training was. Just give me one second. Yeah, sorry. So we learned that we are going into counter-insurgency operations. Then all the training started, and my CEO at that time, uh, Colonel Avinash, who later on retired as a Major General, and 2IC Brigadier Rahman, they were very good in organizing training. So we trained very well before even inducting. So we landed up in JNK, and after some time, those operations and all started. Luckily, in retrospect, lucky for me, we got some time to get used to it because that time Op Parakram happened. If you
Mm.
remember that
Yeah.
Parliament attack on the Indian Parliament, and the entire Indian Army mobilized. So we started gearing up for a conventional thing, right? So so in that bargain, we are not immediately thrust into the counterinsurgency operation. So got some time by the time because we are in the JNK area only.
Mm.
So got used to the terrain and the people. So by the time my first opportunity came for an active operation, I would say I was somewhat ready. But like what, and I think nobody is actually ready for facing fire till the time they do it first time in their life.
Mm.
So I was in a routine patrol. So I am forgetting the exact year, but there was this elections in Jammu and Kashmir. I think this election was happening for the first time after a long time,
Okay.
right? After yeah. So these elections were happening, and the army was not involved in the elections in any way. But we are also vigilant that like anti-national elements should not come get to disrupt it. So we were having our patrols, our ambushes more frequently. So there was a particular spot where uh, uh, one of the teams from my unit was holding on as an ambush site, right? And I was that time actually in some administrative role I was given for a small time, and suddenly that team needed to be relieved to go some another place. So the CEO said, okay, Razak, just collect some guys from the headquarters and then go and relieve them. It's not much of a critical task. You have to just go and sit there. It's just like a
Mm.
routine, and we are basically looking after over a particular track which through which people could come into the villages so that people don't come and disturb the villages. So just I was like, oh, suddenly this has come, and then it just went off. So as soon as we reached there, the mistake we did, and I am openly accepting the mistake. There is something which is taught to us about relief of troops in contact. So when
Mm.
somebody is in contact and in an operation, there is a particular way and sequence in which relief is taken. Relief in the sense like how you interchange. So that party should have actually waited for us to reach and go undertake all those drills. But
Hmm.
because they had to go for another operation, so they left that place. Okay,
Hmm.
and we were going. So what this terrorists did was they came and sat where this team was sitting. So from this particular ambush site where our team had just vacated, those terrorists opened fire on my column when we are trying to induct.
Hmm.
And so suddenly, fire happens, and it's like, there's so much of sound, and they were using UBGL grenades. So
Okay.
UBGL grenades, and but luckily for us, that area was like a sandy patch. It was like, area between a river, it's not a major river, a small river, and the hills. So it's a
Hmm.
sandy patch, right? So when the UBGL is going inside, because of the soft soil,
It
some
goes.
of them didn't burst. But I thought, firstly, seeing it, that it is like a somebody has done an IED attack,
Hmm.
you know, like a bomb blast. And then suddenly fire started. So it takes some time to realize that you are under fire. So obviously we took over, and I was lucky that I was with people. I think some of those Ghatak people were there. Though I was not the
Okay.
Ghatak commander at that time. Yeah, I was given some Ghatak people by the CO to go along with me. These are experienced
Hmm.
guys, and so we all took shelter. And then, the main thing that time was because my column had got divided into two parts because the fire came suddenly. So one party went left and the other. So now I was being now on the radio. I was being contacted by my CO to ask what has happened and how is there any casualty and all. And I was not being able to communicate with the other people because they had a smaller radio set which was getting interfered. It was a VHS set and was getting interfered because of the curvature of the mountain.
Hmm.
But somehow, so we went crawling to the other side, and all those things happened. Okay, so all these things were happening, and then the CO sent a reinforcement team along with the TWICE. They came in a what we call the MPV, those mine
Hmm.
protected vehicles. So that is like bulletproof, right? They came, and so these people are firing on them, but because it was a bulletproof vehicle, they
Right.
could answer, and then so when they fired, that gave my column the chance to come out of the firing zone, and then we sort of deployed and took shelter. So finally, I realized, okay, it's over, and yeah, that gives you a perspective. But funny thing was, so I thought, it's a very harrowing experience actually, your first firefight.
Hmm.
And later, of course, to this date, I regret that we could not do anything in return, though we did not have any casualty.
Hmm.
So, but we could not return because we are really not in a position to return because it would have been a fire which would have got wasted. But you
Hmm.
always regret that, right? But one thing I realized, two things there. One is like when bullets fly, you lose time of time. Sorry, track of time.
Hmm.
It felt to me that it had gone on for hours, but actually later I realized it was just for like 10 minutes or
Hmm.
something. In that 10 minutes, you feel that it's a long time has gone. That is one. And secondly, we thought, now that it's over and we'll go back now because we have got safe. So the twice said, no, now you go and put the ambush. And we had actually gone for a 24 hours ambush, but because of this particular incident, it turned into a long term ambush. And I had not gone really prepared because when you go for long term ambushes, you do certain preparations.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we were there for 4 or 5 days, and finally, after things cooled down a bit, elections were over, we came down.
Got
That
it.
was my first fight. Subsequently, of course, we had more, but the first one is something we always remember.
Got it. Got it, sir. Sir, if you could tell us, after you spent some time in the unit, so what motivated you to, opt for NSG, and how was your probation during the NSG commando, which happens there?
Okay, so it just happened because of, uh, I mean, like there are a lot of factors, but majorly I'll tell you. So I was telling you about the Kashmir tenure. So that during the end of this Kashmir tenure, we had a long term, almost 4 years in Kashmir. Generally, 10 years are not more than 2.5.
Hmm.
So 4 years, the unit was coming to a peace station, and my CO had got an intimation from Army headquarters about the officers will likely to move out on posting. It's a routine thing.
Hmm.
Okay. So the CO in his casual talk told me also that probably you'll get posted out for some tenure outside. And that is the time I had met in during my leave and vacation when we were traveling from Kashmir home. In one of those convoys, I met an officer who was just coming back from NSG.
Okay.
So in our talk, I just asked, sir, where are you coming from? He said, I am coming back from NSG. So we got talking. He was also in 51 SSG only.
Okay.
So from his stories, I started becoming fascinated. And I thought, I must really, I wish there was a way I could join NSG. So when this posting thing came, I told my CEO, he said, since I have to go only, can we try that I go to the NSG? He was not very keen actually. He said, "Arey, why energy? I want you to go as an instructor and all this." I said, "No, sir, I'm very keen to go." So he said, "Okay, well, let's find out." So he spoke to somebody in MS branch, and they said, "Okay, is the officer volunteering for energy?" So he said, "Yes." So they said, "Okay, send volunteering application," which I did, and then as a regular thing, they sent. So my probation period came, and that's how I landed up there. And of course, when you join the energy, you don't have that much idea about the various units and
Mm,
all. I just went thinking it is energy, right? And after I passed my, so during that 90 days probation, by the time again, I was very firm that I want to go to one of the SSG. I was like equally this thing for both 51 or 52. I would have happily joined 52 also
mm,
if I had got that, but I got 51. And in retrospect, yeah, that was the best thing that could have happened, because no offense, and my friends in the 52 will probably not like me saying this. They are very specialized in one particular aspect, and they're very good at what they do.
mm.
But 51 has got a much larger
I-
scope in terms of what all, where all they can operate, right? All the operations. So therefore, I got to see much more and learn much more there. And lucky for me that there was a time when 52 was falling short of officers for some of those duties that they do, and so some people from 51 did that also. So that way, like for
mm,
almost 6 months, I was at 52. So I'm one of those few. There are few more who got this opportunity to serve with both the SSGs, that is 51 and 52. Generally,
mm.
it doesn't happen. It definitely does not happen now because I think they don't do that. But so yeah, that is all. You asked something more about energy, right?
Yes, yeah. How was your probation experience, and also what are the qualities that they're looking into when you are in probation?
Okay, so probation was tough. It is tough because it's long period. 90 days is not easy, and like in that. And one of the biggest thing is injury management, because you do get injured in something or the other. Might not be a major injury, but something, and then you have to manage it. So that was it was tough, and I did it the one which happens in July onwards, and it is very hot. And many people actually, energy probation is infamous that
Mm,
almost in every profession some people lose their lives. In our case also it was there, some soldiers, they lost their lives, and many times it happens because of this whole dehydration and
mm,
heat and all. So it was tough, but that time I was fit. Now, one of the good thing was that since I knew I was going to energy, I had taken care to to do my physical training while I was in my original unit. And so physical part I did not have too much of okay, I had, but maybe not as much as the others. And in between, I had also developed some problem with my soldier, and I had to go. At night, I actually smuggled out of the energy campus surreptitiously and went to a Baji in
mm,
Manesar, who was famous for fixing all these injuries. Like one of the Jawans who was also doing this profession with me, he told me, this Baji is there, and I know him. He's from my village, and he's really good. So I said, but how do we? And he and me, we actually sort of bunked at night from the energy campus, went to that Baji, and Baji, when he saw me, he said, yeah, yeah, I know you guys do all that funny things, no, and energy, and many people like you come to me for. So he gave me, some massages, exercises, also the
mm,
traditional one, and some jelly booty sort of things. And so I was like always worried that I should not fall, and my injury should not deteriorate to an extent that I have to give up in between and go back.
mm,
And it's very difficult to go back for a profession, because when you go for the first time you don't know what's coming, right? So you just, in the
mm.
ignorance is bliss, right? Second time you know what is going to happen, so it is mentally tougher that to go and volunteer for such a thing.
Correct.
But yeah, it went well. I did well. The training center was very keen that I joined them as an instructor. In fact, they got behind me, but I was very firm that I'll join a SSC, because I believe that being with the frontline unit gives you the experience which training may you teach others, but you get to learn more with SSC. So
Mm.
that's how I joined 51.
Got it.
When you're saying what they're looking for, yeah, I'll tell you very briefly on that. See, one thing is definitely there. They are definitely looking for physical fitness and toughness, right? So physical fitness is what you see people doing, but toughness is a more of a part of the mind, right? So everybody gets injured. Not everybody is good in everything that they make you undergo. Somebody is good at running. He may not be good at obstacles, or
Mm,
somebody is not good in say firing. So it's like you have to push yourself to go beyond a point, and beyond your comfort zone. That is the main key there, right? So that is what one has to have. So one may be physically not the fittest of person, I mean not the strongest of person, but if they have mental resilience, they will see through it. As an officer, they of course also look into your mental aspects, psychological aspects, and how you are at leading small teams. Because in all special forces, like if you would have interviewed others also, how a person interacts with his soldiers is very important for an officer. That is there in all units, but in special forces especially, because there is not. I mean, like there are small teams. Like you're sitting in a jungle with just four guys. You cannot say,
mm,
okay, I'm an officer, and so you can't have any special privilege or anything there. So therefore, how you bond with soldiers, how close you can be with them in terms of working together professionally. That is the important aspect that they look out for officers there.
got it, sir. So you spoke about, pushing your limits and, how about mental toughness as well. So, as an aspirant or somebody who wants to join the forces, so how can you develop that? Is there a way to develop that, or is it just inborn?
See, pushing oneself beyond a point is something. I think it is based on two things. One, it is based on practice. Like you
Mm,
cannot do it overnight. For example, like people who have this record of holding their breath underwater for the longest time.
mm,
I think
mm,
Tom Cruise is one of those in this world who he doesn't have a record, but I saw a video in it. So it does not come in a single day, right?
mm,
So you will hold your breath for say a minute, and the next day you will do it for 1 minute 10 seconds, and like that you will go to a point wherein you can hold your breath for much longer than a normal human being. So you have to build upon it, right? So
that's great.
therefore, so you want to be tough, you want to push your limits, you have to build that thing into you. It will not come in one you know one day or 1 month. That is one. And secondly, is you have it's self confidence is what I think makes one go beyond the point, because you have to have that confidence in yourself. You have to really trust yourself. You have to really sort of trust your own uh, abilities and your instincts. So that is what makes you go beyond something, right? And of course the major thing is, I think you have to really want something really badly. I
Mm,
really wanted to go to NSG when I went, because
got
like I did not opt for the special forces when I was in the academy, because my course mates who were there, some of them are like really tough guys. Like, and I'll be very frank now. I was underconfident that in front of those guys probably I am not the best. Now I think differently maybe, but that time. So I never. But by the time I have gone for this NSG, I knew after my Ghatak course and all that, you see, I can be there. So I really wanted to go to NSG. So that is what like when you really want something, you can really push yourself
got it, sir.
beyond your limits.
So as your experience in the energy commando, so if you could mention any experience that you have which is very memorable to you, which you still cherish, what would that be?
You are asking about the from the NSG, or you are asking from the entire career?
Uh, Probably from your entire career. That's also fine, sir.
Yeah, see, from the entire career, because I served for 21 years, there will be too many things. Like there's
Mm,
so many highlights, and it would be. But yeah, the one which really gave me satisfaction was, okay, I'll name two, but I'll go chronologically. I told you, like NSG was, I feel very happy about. Even today, if anybody asks me the best 1 or 2 tenure, I would say NSG to be the best, and then I'll count the others. So there are two things. Like I told you, I was not the best in physicals, but because I got some opportunity while I was there in NSG, because maybe because I was the junior most in terms of age, so I was given that all these physical things. There is a test which happens for NSG officers every quarter, and
mm,
and 6 monthly, again it happens, in which it's a called validation exercise, in which you are tested for all the physical firing and everything, right?
Hmm.
So that you maintain yourself there. So there is no competition as such, but that time the force commander, Brigadier Rajan, had started this, that anybody who crossed 90 percentage marks in that test, like overall, they used to be given a special cap of the NSG, which used to have a yellow feather on the of front part, which you could not buy because that was not allowed to be sold by the canteens and all.
Hmm.
So it just happened that one of those validation, I actually reached that 90%. So and I got that, and that was like a big high for me because I knew I was not the toughest. I mean, the best in terms of physical, but to excel in what you do in something which you are not best at, that really gives you a high, right? That was one. Secondly, was my operations in Chhattisgarh. It was a classified operation, so I'll not like to go into too much of details. But I saw things which were, I mean, along with the other officers, which probably very few people in India can even imagine what happens and how it happens. We are very lucky to have helicopters with us because we went for a specific operation. Otherwise, the type of you all see what happens there, right, in the news,
Hmm.
and like any force is very vulnerable there because of the IED
Hmm.
threat and all. So that was something like that is not a high in terms of like a thrill, but I really, gave me a very different perspective about not only I would not only say about operations, but a lot of things about socio-economic things and others, and so that was one. And yeah, and I also we take pride that group of officers who when we connect now, because the army does not operate there, right?
Hmm.
So so we take pride that we are one of the only few army officers who have ever operated in the Abusmar area,
Okay.
Dantewara and Bijapur and all. Right? That is one. And coming to my army career, in my infantry battalion, there are many highs. But yeah, like when I was the commanding officer, we were in Dras in the Moscow Valley.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now the Moscow Valley is the valley which is officially considered to be the second coldest inhabited place in the world. The first is Siberia. I
Hmm.
mean, I have not read it anywhere, but I saw those boards by the tourism department which claims this. So anyway, so that Tiger Hill and Batra Top and all that you hear, these are all part of Moscow Valley
Hmm.
only. Now we were guarding that, and I was the commanding officer. It is considered to be one of the toughest area in terms of not enemy access necessarily, because now that area is not as active as say other parts of Kashmir,
Hmm.
but that is considered toughest in terms of terrain. Almost no unit comes back from there without one or fatal casualty caused due to weather and avalanches. The headquarters that I had, that used to have, it has a record number of avalanches in India, like 40, 50 avalanches every year. Even Siachen base camp does not get that many avalanches. So I was there, and my thing was that we actually wanted to go to Siachen, but we got this place.
Hmm.
I We had an ambition of getting the Chief of Army's citation, which is like the best unit award
Yeah.
for which is given to just around 12, around 15 units from the entire Indian Army. So you can imagine, like there are like almost 500 units. And as a CO, my thing was that we should come without a casualty that is of
Hmm.
any sort of fatal injury. So we could achieve both, right? And there was no casualty. We came back, and like last previous 4 or 5 units, they all had casualties, but we came back without a casualty, and we also did in a lot of good in a lot of aspects, and we owned that award. In fact, we are the first battalion to win it from Moscow Valley in more than 15 years. I think
Got it.
after Op Bijay, that is Kargil operation, no unit deployed in Moscow had owned that award, so we did it. So the army gave this opportunity. They called me to Delhi. I went there with my family, stayed. They gave us their prize. Me and the Subedar Major, we received it from
Got it.
General Naravane, who had taken over as the chief at that time.
I
And
think
in the evening, there was a
I think that's the
sorry.
photo there where you're getting the unit
Oh
citation.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is the one. Yes.
Yeah.
And in the evening there was a tea in the army house, that is the chief's residence, in which even the prime minister and all were in attendance that time. And I come from not very great background. I mean, I would call humble background. to be there, with my spouse and having tea in a garden where the Prime Minister was also sitting. I think that was a high that I will carry for the rest of my life.
Got it, sir. Nice, sir. Sir, just one more question. So, when you were into operation or in combat, what was your favorite weapon back then?
Yeah. Difficult to say. So see, I love AK, right? Because and we got to use a lot of different type of AKs, because this is not a secret. So all
Mm,
the weapons which are captured from the terrorists,
mm.
they after being refurbished and this thing, it is again given back to
Okay.
forces, right? So yeah, that time. So the the AK rifles which were they held by Indian Army from the normal procurement was limited. So अभी आपको ना पता नहीं चलता था. You used to go to a sector, you will get a Russian AK, and you will go after 3 months, you will get
I
a
knew.
Czechoslovakian AK, then
Mm,
you will get a Bulgarian. So the AK used to keep changing, and I used to find it a very fascinating weapon. But the weapon I really fell in love was the Glock 19 pistol in
mm,
NSG. Oh my God, it's like a piece of art, when it comes to weapon. So when I went into the NSG, we had, of course, we had the MP9 and
mm,
all those things, but the secondary weapon was the Glock. And there was a tradition in 51 that like officers really competed to be a good pistol firer, and people were really good, some people. And so we learned from our seniors. And so we when I came in, it was Glock 17,
mm,
and then we got Glock 19. I have used Glock 22 also, but those were classified operations.
mm.
I cannot speak. But in Glock 19, I just loved it. I think it's a piece of art. uh, yeah.
Got it.
So that's
Got it, sir. So my final question to you would be, because a lot of aspirants will be watching
yeah.
this, what will be your message to all of them who wants to join the forces?
Yeah, so like I do get messages from different aspirants. Like I told you, Akash, I'll share also. I many of them connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm quite active on LinkedIn, on Twitter also, so they can connect. So anyway, so the thing is, like when you aspire for something, uh, don't put the cart in front of the horse. Like I see people going too much into what happens after you join, like
Mm,
what regiment they will join, or what weapons they will use, or what operations they will do, or what the Russian army is doing in Ukraine. If you know those things, very good, okay, it will be appreciated. But the basics need to be concentrated on. The basic is that you have to do, right? You have to pass the UPSC exam. Second, you have to pass the SSB interview, and
mm,
third, of course, the medical
mm,
thing also. So one should keep those things more in focus than the other aspect. The others should be like, okay, if you can know, well and good. Fine. So that is one. And secondly, listen, everybody does not have to be in the army or the armed forces to serve this country. Some
mm,
of us are lucky enough to get this opportunity. Some do not get the opportunity. It's okay. This is something I hear from a lot of people. They have, I mean, why? To serve our nation, you be a good citizen and do good at what you are. You are serving the nation equally as much as an army guy, I would say. Like there are people who are, you make a very good software, which makes can be used by the Indian army, or do create a business which brings revenue to the country. Everything is in national service, so that is something one should not aspire. But yes, it is a noble profession, and highest respect for people, youngsters who in this world of having so many opportunity also even is now aspire for the armed forces. But I would just say, like concentrate on the basics, the written part, written test, the SSB, and the medical. These three, you will come to know what are the gaps, and concentrate on. If you're somebody who's not very good at studies and not confident of the written test, then please concentrate first on the written test. Once you
mm,
pass the written test, there will be gap from that to your SSB of almost 3 months. You'll get time to prepare. If you're somebody who have a medical thing in, obviously if you have something which is like not acceptable on medical,
mm,
then you cannot aspire. But say something you have which is like somewhere touch and go, right? So
mm,
concentrate on that and make yourself fit physically so that you are accepted. And SSB, like I said, is a long term thing. Keep building on your personalities. I see some officers are running this SSB training in a very good way, because they have a long term vision. They
mm,
help you to develop your personality and keep yourself updated on things which are happening in this world, and improve on your verbal communication skills. And one thing, if you are somebody who is a student in the schools, I would say please do take care part in co-curricular activities as well. We give a lot of importance to sports now, which is good, but co-curricular activities which make you go to the stage, whether it is a
Mm.
debate or a quiz or a declamation, please do take part, because that gives you the amount of confidence and the communication skills which are required when you face SSB and an interview.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir,
Yeah.
for your
And one
time.
last thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Akash, I will just say,
Yeah.
yeah, Akash, just last thing I would
Yeah.
like to say, if you have a opportunity, like if you have somebody in your family or anybody you know who is serving in the armed forces, and you can go and stay in a unit life for 1 week or so, please do that. That would give you a really good idea whether you want that life, because
Mm.
it's not always like how you see it on TV or on movies, right? To get a real perspective, if you just go and come back in a day, you'll not stay there. Some of us are happy with that life, some of us are not. There are many people I see later on, they're not very happy also. So it's better to get this reality check if you can.
Got it, sir. Got it. Thanks a lot, sir, for your time on this session. I hope a lot of people who will watch this into will get some perspective about your life and experience in the Army, Energy Commando, and the infantry. So thanks a lot, sir, again for your time. Jai Hind.
Yeah, thank you so much. And they can follow me on, not need to follow, just you can check the photographs and all that I keep sharing on Twitter. That might be of interest to some of them. Thank you so much, Akash, for this opportunity. And since you are in Lanka, I'll definitely meet up with you.
Sure,
Anna?
sir.
And Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.